Let's talk about teaching. Let's talk about planning our class meetings. Now, in my early teaching, it was a pain and ate up hours and hours of my life for me to plan my classes. It still does, but a whole lot less. Here's what I faced as an early teacher. I had, in my subject that I was teaching, a whole universe of things that I might teach any one class session. And so I had many decisions to make about what to do in one class meeting. The thing that made my life a whole lot better was to realize that if I could focus on the student outcomes for a particular session, that would help me, that would give me a focus and make lots of those decisions for me. And so now, instead of the whole universe of things that I might teach, if I look at what the students are to attain in this class meeting, boom, zillions of other decisions are made for me. Now, another thing that helped me get my class planning in control was to think about the phases of a lesson. I found myself actually scripting out what I was to say for a whole lot of the time that I was in class. Didn't work. It took a whole lot of time and attention. So I've come to a place where I can think about the class that I teach, whether it's one class meeting or even a portion of a class meeting, or whether it's a semester-long course. There are phases that I go through, that the class goes through, and goals that we want to accomplish along the way. Now, I've developed some pretty elaborate educational jargon for these three phases. So let me spell them out for you. The first phase I call the beginning. And in this phase, there are a few things that we might want to accomplish. And so we'll choose activities that will help us accomplish one or more of these goals. In the first phase, we may want to build a sense of inclusion, a sense of teamwork among the students and myself. Or it might be important to do assessment. Now, assessment, of course, means collecting information about your students that will help you address the students' learning needs. Or we might need instead to work on attitudes of students. For example, so many students come into some of our classes having bad attitudes about math, that they could never succeed. And so one thing that I've done when I've taught math was to tell my own biography, my own math story, and how at one point in my life math was a tremendous black place for me. And yet I tell the story of what happened in my life so that now I can enjoy math and reading Scientific American mathematical recreations as part of my pleasure and my pastime. Attitudes. Teamwork, assessment, attitudes toward the material, towards the ability to learn. These are things that we might want to focus on at the beginning. Next, high jargon, middle. The middle of the instructional sequence, which could be a very short portion of a class meeting or an entire semester course. In the middle, what we want to accomplish is engagement in the content. And we want to use enough variety that we can address the various learning styles in our classrooms and that we can keep people alert and maintain attention for those 3 hours, 6 hours, 7.5 hour days. In the middle, we want to engage. So my planning task is, what do I need to do to change things up every 20 minutes, maybe more often, so that it's not all just a lot of talk from me, but it's talk from students, it's perhaps some physical motion. Make it change. A change is as good as a rest, they say. Now, the third phase in an instructional sequence, the end. And in the end, we may want to accomplish one of these goals. One, assessment or self-assessment, for students to recognize that they have achieved something. For us as teachers to recognize what they may have achieved so that we can plan things next time. Planning. We may want, at the end of some class meetings or at the end of a course, to help students think about what they're going to do with the new knowledge and skills that they have gained since they've been there with you. Beginning, middle, end. These three phases, each with particular goals, and the goals, keeping the goals in mind, keep me from having to script out every line. I'm moving strategically toward my goals along the way. Let's talk about teaching.